Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us again today. I'm really honored to have Dr. Sharon Stills with us today. Thank you, Sharon, for being here.
My pleasure. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so Sharon brings almost 20 years of experience, and she and I actually were in school at the same time. Even though she was ahead of me, we both went to the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. And now Sharon specializes not only in women's health, but European biological medicine, my body medicine, and she is the creator of RED, which stands for three things that I think are really, really important to self-care, which is why I actually asked her to join us, because she really dives into this stuff. And I think she has a really unique perspective. And so I wanted to talk to you today to kind of share with everybody what is so important about self-care.
Excellent. I'm so happy to be here. I think it's going to be a really great conversation.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump on in. I mean, talk to me a little bit about your perspective on self-care as medicine.
I really think self-care is the ultimate medicine from everything, from the first part of just showing up and wanting to be an active participant in your healing journey, from carving out the time to be taking care of yourself. Because the way our society is set up, it's really easy not to take care of yourself. Like I always tease and I say, like, I'm going to run for president and my platform is going to be that, like, we have 2-day work weeks and 5-day weekends, because I think that's much more civil. The way our society is set up, working 9 to 5, taking care of kids, running around, it doesn't really give a lot of time or a lot of importance to self-care. So we really have to kind of own that and take charge of that and carve out self-care on our own, because it's not just going to happen for us. And unfortunately, our society is not really supporting that. It doesn't really say, well, you're only going to work 9 to 12 because you need some self-care for today, or take a self-care break. We have coffee breaks or cigarette breaks or maybe a lunch break, but we don't really have self-care breaks. And one of the greatest things I think in self-care might sound silly, but it's like having a scheduler and actually scheduling in your self-care. Because if you don't do that for yourself and you don't put it in your calendar, it's very easy for the day, the weeks, the months, the years, the decades to go by and nothing's really been done for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, tell me a little bit about the physiology of what happens over time, where we have these kind of out of balance lives that now are the norm because that's the society that we live in. But I think it has a real impact on our actual physical well-being.
Yeah, well, so let's start with just even something simple as our diet. So when we don't make time for self-care, and I like to think of the diet, it's the food that nurtures us. So it's like the fuel we give to ourselves. And how many of you, and I've been guilty of this too, so I'm not sitting here on some high horse, but you just didn't make time in your day to prepare a healthy meal and to sit down and eat a healthy meal, and you kind of just grab something and you're eating it maybe in the car or at the counter or as you're walking out the door. And just that alone, not sitting down, not taking some sacred space to chew your food, to put down the phone, to put away the TV, to turn off, all external things and just chew, be present. That starts to disrupt our physiology from our gastrointestinal tract. So we have food that's not properly digested, which can cause all sorts of havoc, from indigestion and gas and belching and food laying in our stomach, causing bloating. We start to eat things that can then, if we're eating with stress, our gut can become permeable, or leaky is a common term that I'm sure some of you listening have heard of. So then we have these proteins that aren't ever supposed to escape our digestive tract. Now they're going out into the system and we're having immune complexes, and that can lead to headaches and allergies and migraines and weight gain and skin issues and just about anything you can think of. And so just at a simple level of not taking time for self-care to feed ourselves properly, we start to disrupt our physiology. And like, if you think about it, like babies, when you have a baby, it's like, especially women, we're so good at taking care of other people. So like, when you have a baby, the baby's feeding schedule becomes like a primary focus of your life, as it should be. The baby needs to be nurtured. The baby needs to grow. And yet we don't give ourselves the same opportunity or attention. And we need to work on changing that. So hopefully all of you who are here listening and yearning for self-care, you can kind of take this in, and it doesn't have to be like, kabam, you've gone from, eating on the go to now you're cooking 3 meals a day. Change happens over time. And even just one little thing, maybe it starts with 1 meal a week that you cook and sit and eat in silence or in quiet, and you're really chewing your food. I like people to chew their food like 30 times. You should chew your food and liquefy it. That really helps support digestion. And if you count how many times you're chewing and you're not really conscious of it, I'm sure it's not 30.
I sometimes have the fork up to my mouth for the second bite. I'm like, what am I doing? Like just waiting to shovel the next one in.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of us carry these patterns of hurry and rush, and it translates in a way that we don't even realize because it's reinforced every day.
Yeah, and our schedules are really filled, and that's why I think really looking at your schedule is like one of the greatest gifts of self-care you can give to yourself, because we only have so many hours in the day. And so to me, another big thing for self-care is like not burning the candle at every end. So that means sleep becomes a priority. I always say sleep is my superpower. Sleep is my obsession. Sleep, and so like, yes, we only have so many hours, and then we have to cut that down because you have to at least take a third of the day, at least 8 hours for your sleep hygiene. So now we're looking at only 16 hours a day. And so most of us have more going on than we can fit into a 16-hour day. And for most of us, we're starting with like, fitting in a shower, going shopping, maybe shuttling kids around, playing mom taxi. Maybe we're taking care of elderly. We're going to our job. We have to run to the post office. And so we don't really stop and think about, self-care. I need to make sure I'm exercising. I need to make sure I'm getting some time in nature. I need to make sure I'm having some time alone to just be. I'm having time with friends and family and, all these important things. And so we really have to like look, get creative, learn to say no, learn to discern, learn to think outside the box about how we're going to fit self-care in a life where it's not, readily just waiting to, happen for us.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea of just simply looking at your schedule and putting yourself on your own calendar as a place to start with self-care, because I think that can be really overwhelming. Where are the gaps? And I think when we've got so much on our to-do list, it's like, there is no room for me. I just can't get to that this week or this month or this lifetime. But I think taking a realistic look and saying, wait a minute, I've got 10 minutes here or 20 minutes there, or I don't have to have all these meetings in this day. I can make a window for lunch or something like that.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's like, in business, when you own your own business, they always teach you like, pay yourself. A lot of business owners, they make the mistake of paying all the, and they don't pay themselves first. And really, you have to pay yourself. And, there's always the thing on the airplane that I always quote, lots of people quote, put your own oxygen mask on. And so it's the same with self-care. And, although we have very busy schedules, we also have a lot of time that we can tend to not utilize to the best of our, what's going to serve us best. So how many of you can, spend an hour on Facebook? It's like, the black hole of social media, or scrolling through Instagram, or, mindlessly doing nothing. And I'm not saying that it's, it's not bad to do that. And it's sometimes you need some mindless activity, but like really looking at, okay, here I get out of work at 5 and like, what can I do for this hour where, maybe I have just been not utilizing my time, can I go for a walk? Is this a good time to get to the gym? And I think really knowing what's primary for you. So for instance, when I was in medical school at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, I was a single mother. I was in my late 20s and I had 2 kids, at that time they were like 6 and 8. So I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. But needless to say, I was pretty busy. And so I didn't have the same lifestyle that I have now where, my kids are grown, I live alone. My work responsibilities are not as much. I'm not studying for a test every day, but I knew like, what are the basic like non-negotiables for me? And for me, it was getting meditation in my life daily, and it was getting some aerobic activity. Those were like the 2 things that kind of like fed my mind, my body, kept me sane, helped with stress reduction. And so I knew like, okay, I don't have a lot of time, but I need those 2 things. That is like my bare minimum self-care. And so I just happened, oddly enough, to live around the corner from a Tibetan Zen monk. Talk about score. And he used to do meditation sits every morning. He had like his little zendo, his little chapel there in his backyard, which was literally like around the corner from me. And it would be at 4:30 in the morning. And I lived in an apartment and there was a gym and they had, an elliptical and a stair stepper. And so I would wake up every morning and I would go to this meditation at 4:30 in the morning. My kids were still sleeping. They were old enough I could, feel safe leaving them alone just to sneak out. And I wouldn't be able to stay for the whole meditation because it was like an hour and a half, but I could stay for like 45 minutes. So I got something. And then I would come home and I would hop on an elliptical machine or a stair stepper at the gym. Couldn't do an hour, but I could do half an hour, enough to get a sweat and release some stress. And then I would shower and then I would wake my kids up and I'd be super mom. And so, getting up at 4:30 in the morning was not like my ultimate, but it was what I needed to do. And on the flip side, I made sure I went to bed at 8:30 every night. And because I didn't want to take away from my sleep, because that was my other, I just don't function if I don't sleep. And I see that in patients as well, whether you recognize it or not, but we really all need our sleep. And if you're complaining of forgetfulness or anxiety or depression or weight gain or fatigue, like a lot of patients will come in and they want a vitamin, they want a boost, they want this. But to me, let's get the foundation, because a lot of times if you just get the sleep in, you might not be suffering from fatigue or any of these other issues. And so I would go to bed at 8:30 in the morning, not the best for my 8:30 at night, excuse me, not the best for my social life or anything, but it was like, it's what I did because I needed my bare minimum self-care. So I tell you that story not so you think I'm like a crazy superwoman, because I'm not. I'm the same as all of you. But just to say, no matter what your situation or how jam-packed your schedule is, with some creative thinking and really checking in and knowing like what your bare minimums are, there's a way to make it work if you're really committed to making it work.
Well, and I think that's the key, right, is the commitment. And how often do we let go of our commitment to self in order to maintain a commitment to somebody else or something outside of ourselves? And I think that's, the more I'm doing these interviews and doing my own explorations, deepening into self-care, that idea of commitment and what are we really committing to here? So tell me a little bit more, like why was meditation and mindfulness so important for you, or how do we get clear on what the bare minimum is?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, we have to explore some things. I think meditation, I recommend it for all my patients, and just I teach meditation, I teach mindfulness. So to me, it's some of the best medicine around. So the more I look at self-care, the more I realize and learn and preach that a lot of the really good medicinal things that we do for ourselves, how we self-care, don't come in a bottle. It doesn't come, not that I prescribe pharmaceuticals as a naturopathic physician, and I do prescribe a lot of herbs and vitamins and things of that nature, but like the really core stuff doesn't come in a bottle. It comes from the choices that we make for ourselves. And it's like we're all humans, so we're all the same, but of course we're all individuals, so we're all different. But finding something to connect to a deeper place, to plug you in to your actual life, to your actual moment, is one of the most caring things you can do for yourself, because mindfulness is all about, paying attention moment to moment on purpose without judging. And like, what greater gift can you give to be in your life and to be present to all the sacred moments that may be really just mundane? And we tend to think things have to be kapow and fireworks and to really be meaningful. But I find the mundane, day-to-day, moment-to-moment of life is where the beauty really happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, committing to a practice of being present helps to, it's like when something's stressing us, sometimes we just want to not think about it. But to me, going in, like the only way through is going through it. And when we go in and we observe and we sit and we are present and pay attention to what's going in our life, it loses the charge. And we can kind of see other options. We can realize the story we're attaching to it is just a story and doesn't have to be the story. And it really helps us to be free and be less stressed.
Okay. All right. And I can totally see how that's a foundation of everything else.
Yeah. So, that's like, and to me, I don't know, I'm a blood type O, so I need to move my body. I got to get out there and, type A's can do, but, different people, different constitutions. Not everyone needs to like go out there and crack a sweat, but I do. So, you need to know about yourself. It's like, you know what it feels like when you're stressed and paying attention. And, if self-care is new to you, then this is kind of like an invitation for a journey to kind of like see, because your self-care may be gardening, it may be journaling, it may be cooking, it may be taking a bath, it may be lying in a hammock. There's so many different ways to reduce stress, be present, and nurture ourselves. And that's part of the excitement and the fun of this, is like to discover what works for you, to get to know yourself.
Yeah. So do you think that everybody needs the same self-care, or does that vary?
Well, so I created this program, Red, and I created it because there's only so many patients I can see, as you know.
Yeah.
You can only see so many patients one-on-one. And I felt like there were so many things that could be beneficial for everyone. And that was really how I started to think about creating this program, Red, because I wanted to have something that could reach anyone, whether they were a patient of mine or not. So I do believe there are things across the board that can be beneficial as far as self-care. And I divided Red into, the R for reinventing your health, and the E for exploring your spirit, and the D for discovering your sexy. And so I divided it because I think we do need to pay attention to the physical body. I mean, even though we are energetic beings, we are in this vessel, we are in this body, and we need to be kind to it. It's what supports us. And if you're not taking care of your physical body, it's difficult to start to think about your passions in life and, connecting with people and connecting to your journey and your gifts when, you have headaches or you have constant joint pain. So I think the physical body is important. And so there are things, for example, simple things like sleep, hydration, that these are just foundational self-care things that I talk about in Red that I really have seen. Like, if you do these things, who knows what you're actually going to be left dealing with. You might not be left dealing with a lot of physical pain or anguish in your mind. And so I really believe, yes, there are foundational things. Like, everyone needs hydration. We're all, like 70% water, and we all need to be properly hydrated. And the physical body just doesn't work the way it should if we're not properly hydrated.
Sure.
So that's a foundational thing. We all need sleep. And, I say an average of 8 hours, and some people need a little more, and some people need a little less. And then some people tell me I only need 4 hours. And I say, no, you're fooling yourself. You may think that, I went through that stage when I was into my early 20s. Back then I was in massage school and, another crazy period in my life. And I only needed 4 hours of sleep. Well, yeah, that was just kidding myself. So, bare minimum, like 7.5 hours. I really like people to strive for 8 and honor if they need a little more. And I think when we're talking about sleep, I always include like wind down time. Like, like we say, like the best hours are to sleep from 10 to 6. But that doesn't mean you're like, go, 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 go. And then at 9:59, you stop and you go to bed because, you need some time to wind down. Most people take 10, 15 minutes to fall asleep. And it's nice to have that cushion. So like I say, at 9 o'clock, like you just stop. At 8 o'clock, you start triaging. If there's a pile of laundry and there's a pile of dishes and there's a pile of emails and there's a pile of kids or whatever there's piles of, you just decide what's going to get done tonight and what's not going to get done. And, like if the dishes are not going to get done tonight, just run some water in them so you don't have like caked up food. If the laundry's not going to get done, at least take it out of the machine and put it on the couch so it's not getting all wrinkled. But like, learn, I write about this on one of my cards, but it's like learn and be okay with going to bed with not everything done because you're human. Everything's never going to be done. Our to-do lists, we check some things off, but they're never totally finished.
Right.
Yeah. Even if you get through it, it's like, well, a new one's on its way building itself up. So learn to be okay with incompletion. Learn that your sleep and you're taking care of yourself is much more important than, a loaded dishwasher or, an empty inbox.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think it's so individual. It's just like you say, like, as you're saying these things, I'm like, I would never be able to go to bed with a bunch of dishes in the sink because it's stressing me out in the morning when I just want to have my morning and there's dishes and the saucepan I want to use is dirty or whatever. Laundry can sit for days and it doesn't bother me at all. So it's good to know these things about ourselves, right? That like, what, some of these things do feel like a priority. So, my husband and I have strategized, like, how do we make sure the dishes are done before bedtime? Because neither one of us like it, but we don't really care about the pile of laundry in the corner of the bedroom. It was on the bed and then it got tossed onto the floor and that's just fine. But we've had the actual conversation around this stuff rather than feeling like, oh, he wants me to have this done and she gets upset if this isn't. It's like, no. Let's just talk it through and prioritize and then really have as our top value resting and connecting together. And that's more important than the laundry being perfectly folded.
Exactly. Well, and I think that is like the epitome of self-care, knowing yourself, because if you go to bed and like the dishes really annoy you, like then you're like going to bed and you're going to be anxious and it's going to be on your mind and you're not really caring about yourself. And so a lot of times I think, we think self-care is drinking a green juice or, getting to the gym. And I'm not, bashing those things, but I think we need to like take it a step underneath and really knowing ourselves, knowing, like I love what you said, knowing what our values are, knowing what makes us feel chilled out, how do we chillax and what makes us feel safe and what makes us, be able to inhale and exhale and not feel like the world is crashing around. And that is different for everyone, as it should be. And so a lot of, I bet a lot of you listening, probably have never even stopped to think about that. So what a great opportunity for you to like just, take some time and start to really check in with that. What is self-care for you? And, it could be, making sure your nails are done. All these things we do for ourselves are loving. And it's about like listening to your inner chatter and listening to your voice that goes on about what works for you, and really learning like how it feels to just feel okay, to be present, to not be stressed. And then always having that as an anchor to check in with, to see, okay, is what I'm doing serving, me being okay and me being chilled out, or am I making myself anxious right now?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Because
so,
there's always going to be a pile of to-dos, but
mhm.
I think when we start slowing down and incorporating mindfulness, and mindfulness might come in the form of meditation, or it might come in the form of just listening to the chatter and slowing down, or eating with no other distractions. But I think as soon as we start doing that in earnest, then we realize how much pressure we're constantly putting on ourselves. I literally was teaching stress management at one of the local businesses here, and this woman was like, well, we had guests come and there was a pile of laundry and there was all these sheets and I had to get the sheets done. And I was like, well, let's look at that. Why was that so important to you? And we kind of dove down deeper and deeper and deeper. And it turned out that she wouldn't let her husband help fold them because he doesn't fold them perfect. And that she was afraid of not being good enough, that someone would see her house as dirty, even though she had no one coming over after that. But the idea of not doing those sheets right that same day was just ingrained from a really young age. But it took us about, I don't know, 5, maybe 7 minutes to dive down into like, well, what's underneath that? Well, what's underneath that? To come to this place where like, wow, I am stressing myself out on a Sunday, getting all this stuff done because of something I don't even actually believe in. But she wasn't cued into it. So it was driving these behaviors and pressures.
Mm-hmm. And so that's, that's so important that we really look at the behaviors and what's beneath it. Because if you drink the green juice or you go get the massage, but you're still running these beliefs or these programs and you're not really relaxing and being in the moment, you're just really, you're one step better caring for yourself if you're drinking a green juice rather than a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like real good, juicy self-care here, about really, loving yourself and giving yourself the space and creating a life of peace and ease.
Yeah.
And it's,
Well,
and it can look different. It will look different for every person, and also knowing it will look different for you, maybe week to week, month to month, year to year, that it's always constantly changing. My self-care, I have a lot more time for self-care at my stage in my life now. So it's a lot different than waking up at 4:30 to sneak out to a monk's house.
yeah, I love that. And I think that's exactly right. I mean, to say, and even week to week, sometimes I like to go to the gym, and other weeks that would not be taking care of myself. That would be pushing myself. And so
Exactly.
really being able to determine and give yourself permission. But I think that comes with that slowing down and that mindfulness of, well, where am I today? And what does my body want today, rather than, oh, it's Tuesday and this is my routine. This is what I do no matter how well or crappy I'm feeling. This is what I do to take care of myself. And how do we like kind of let that go?
Yeah. And no, that's why I love the calendar for like, being able to like know, this is important to me. Like I schedule my life around yoga.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are days where, work doesn't allow for yoga. And so then I have like, plan B and plan C. And sometimes plan B is, okay, I'm just going to take a day off and not exercise. Or, plan B is, well, I'm just going to go for a walk today because that's what fits in. But always looking, if we don't look at like the things that we need to nurture ourselves, there won't be time. They'll get shut out. And so doctor's order, go get yourself like a nice calendar, a day timer, and, think about, I mean, the other thing that I think is really important in self-care is, and that I've gotten really into over the past couple of years, is I run women's health retreats. And I think like mandatory at least once a year, like let yourself go on a retreat and unplug and just tune into yourself, because it's just such a nurturing thing to do, to slow down and give yourself that time. And, we all plan like a big family vacation every year, and that's fine and dandy too. But like, allowing yourself to like go, yeah, I'm going to give myself, if you can take a week, that's great. If you can only make it a long weekend, whatever fits for your life and your finances and so forth. But just to give yourself that time to say, I deserve this. I deserve to like unplug and just go into nature, or a yoga retreat, or a silent retreat, or, there's so many different ones to choose from. And just to give yourself that time to kind of just replug. We're so plugged into technology. If we would only, spend, a quarter of that time plugging into ourselves, we could really heal the world and heal ourselves. Nothing against technology. I love my cell phone too, and I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for technology. So there's great things about it, but it also, disconnects us from ourselves. And, self-care mornings, don't wake up and get on your phone. Wake up and check, plug into yourself, whether it's through meditation or a sacred cup of tea or sitting outside, whatever it is that's going to work for you. But do that, like put yourself first, start training yourself that, you matter and you're important, and it's not selfish. It's not a waste of time to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Well, and I think once we start inviting that in, then the cup of tea, the ordinary thing, whatever that is, becomes what, when you name it or even reframe it as, this is how I take care of myself, is I actually pay attention when I'm drinking my tea, rather than I'm going to slog it back or I wait until it gets super cold and then I missed my tea window. And, but like, I think once we start having these more ordinary moments and recognize them as self-care, then it becomes much more accessible. So a lot of people that I've spoken to feel like self-care is like this thing that I go and do for myself, that I've got to carve out an hour and a half for a yoga class or an hour massage or this or that. But really, there's so many other smaller, mundane ways to say, and this is how I love myself. I put a candle in my bathroom that I light most mornings, almost every morning. And it's just a reminder to like, I'm just brushing my teeth here, but I'm lighting a candle for me. And it doesn't take any extra time. I blow it out when I'm done with my teeth. But it's a reminder that I'm a light, and to shine my light. And that's it's so small, but it has made a huge difference.
My thing is I put on my chants. I've got my Spotify chant list, and while I'm brushing my teeth, I chant, and it just similar. It just reminds me of my being and sacredness and what's important and connection. And when I go to bed at night, I kind of just like, I take a moment to like feel my feet in the blankie, or if I have my fuzzy socks on, and I just kind of like let that envelop me and just feel comfortable and nurtured and grateful. And so, yes, there's all these opportunities. Yes, sometimes we need to carve out an hour and go get that massage, but throughout the day, there's all these opportunities to just embrace caring for ourselves, in little tiny ways that, have big, big reverberations into our spirit and our soul and our cells and our health, and really make a difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, if you have children, children learn by example. And so, a lot of us think as mothers, we have to just give, but then we're teaching our children not to take care of themselves. And so this starts at a young age. So the best thing you can do for your children is to take care of yourself and teach them by example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important because they see us plugged in or running around like chickens or getting irritable because there's no time. And then all of a sudden we hear those words being spit back at us around being stressed and too much to do. And yeah.
And kids these days, I mean, we're doing it to the next generation. And so we have to, like, I don't know, when I was growing up, you never heard of a 5-year-old like being stressed, biggest stress was, am I going to play dress up or a finger paint, but now, we have kids, they're overscheduled and we need, so we need to take care of ourselves and we just need some space. One of the things that I have learned as I have gotten older is not to overschedule myself, even with like good things. I see it in the yoga studio. It makes me sad, but like at the end of yoga, we do Shavasana, which is like dead corpse pose, which basically means you're lying there and you're just taking everything in and you're breathing and you're quiet. And like so many people will do the yoga class, and as soon as Shavasana happens, they're out of there. It's like, they got to get somewhere. And it's like, you're missing the point. If we're just running, if we're running to meditation class or running to yoga class, like we're missing the juice. It's not always what you do, it's how you do it. And so having that grace and not overscheduling ourselves. And so, if you're going to squeeze a yoga class in, but you have to race to get there and there's traffic and then, yoga class ends at 6 and you've got to pick up Sally at 6:15 from, that might not be the best thing to do because it might give you more, even though you're doing something good for yourself, it might create more stress. So like, maybe if you have to pick up Sally at soccer practice, maybe you just show up at soccer practice early and you go for a walk or so like thinking like that, I think is, I think self-care is really a mindset shift of how you think and how you do things and taking yourself out of that, you asked in the beginning physiologically. And so, fight or flight. And so when we're not taking care of ourselves, we're stressing our nervous system. And so we tend to be in sympathetic or fight or flight, which, many of you have probably heard somewhere along the lines, but it's kind of like, we're in stress mode. It comes from evolutionary when we were cave women and men and we were, faced with killing a saber-toothed tiger for dinner or having that saber-toothed tiger kill us. And so, yes, fight or flight was very important then because, it was for your life. And we have just taken that and we are stuck in fight or flight from red lights and overdue bills and the constant buzzing of Facebook messages or inbox or arguing with a spouse or, so many different things, a boss at work, deadlines. And so when we're not taking care of ourselves, we're in that fight or flight, we're stressed, we're stuck, we're secreting cortisol, we're affecting our brains and our memory, we're affecting our digestive tract, we're causing high blood pressure. I mean, we're just causing all of these modern day, illnesses. I treat a lot of cancer patients and it is so common for me to see, I hate to like say every patient, but I'm going to say like every patient is like stuck in fight or flight. And so it creates disease. And so self-care is a way to reduce stress. And I see stress as like 99.9999999% of causative of illness. And so it's the greatest gift we can give to ourselves. And yes, it includes moving our bodies appropriately and having balanced hormones and having a healthy gut microbiome and all of these, balancing our neurotransmitters and things of that nature, decreasing inflammation. But if we don't have the underlying way of thinking about it and feeling it in our bodies, then we're not doing ourselves justice. Then we're kind of just going through motions. And, people think I'm kind of weird sometimes, but I'll say like, if you go to McDonald's, and I'm not a McDonald's fan. I mean, I grew up eating McDonald's and that was part of why I was so sick as a child. But, if you go to McDonald's and you're like super happy to be at McDonald's and you're with a loved one and you're having good conversation and you're just like, I can't wait to get my Big Mac, and you eat it and you're chewing it and you're with a loved one. It's like that Big Mac is probably going to nurture you more than if you're like a neurotic mess eating your organic broccoli. And so, that's just how it works. And so we really have to think about, these basics before we start tacking on, these other things that are important. Obviously, I'd rather have you eating organic veggies than eating McDonald's.
Right.
But, it's how we do things. It's the energy which we come from, which really is the best care we can give for ourselves. And for some of you, this might be like, you might have to do a little work around it with a professional. Like, some of you may not think you're worthy to take care of yourselves, or, that you're not as important. And, we all have different programming from different situations growing up. And so if you hear yourself, if you hear chatter like that, like, you are worth it. So, find someone you can work with, whether it's, a therapist, or, I like, energetic, like whether it's NLP or hypnotherapy or EMDR, something that's going to really get into like the subconscious, because a lot of these things, these beliefs we have are like ingrained in our subconscious. So if you find yourself one of those people who are like, always starting a self-care program or a diet or this, and you can't follow through, like, go work with someone to see like, why are you, getting in your own way? Everything I've ever wanted that I haven't gotten has been because I've been in my way. So I've learned, I got to get me out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think, I just, so much of what you're saying is resonating in it's such a big way, as far as just not checking the box. Like, this is not just about like, okay, I got my yoga in and now the other 12 hours of my day are total madness. And that's not what self-care is. Self-care is slowing down enough to honor that you are a living, breathing, neurotic, need-laden human, and that having needs doesn't mean that you're needy. Because I think a lot of us are afraid of that, and just allowing ourselves to embrace the truth of who we are as humans, and honor that, what might be great for you, sitting on a cushion at 4:30 in the morning might be great for you, and that's not my happy place.
Trust me, that would not be my happy place now either. I'm like, I don't know, I did it worked, but yeah, that's
yeah. But for other people, they love being up at 4:00 in the morning because it's beautiful and it's silent and it's their really precious time. And I just think we all have to just take a deep breath and connect in with ourselves more deeply in order to find out what's really true for you, and then follow that as self-care. Not because like, I'm a perfectionist and I've got my self-care plan and here's my wellness tasks and I've got to do it even if it's killing me and I'm tired and I don't want to get out of bed, but I said I'd hit the gym 3 times a week. And it's like, that's
right.
not
Self-care can be skipping the gym to sleep because you're tired.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Well, anything else you want to share with us today?
No, it's been great to be here. I hope this was helpful for everyone listening.
I think it's a great good way to kick off what we're doing, and just think it's really accessible. And I think that's what we all need. I think there's so many demands and expectations and, social media personalities that are like, I've got it all figured out, and I guess I'm here to tell you that's not true.
There's no one way for anyone. And, I'll give myself a little red shameless plug, but my cards are really fun. There's 39 different cards, and, they're just fun. They give you ideas, and, they talk about things from, owning your look.
Mine in my desk drawer.
From owning your look and self-care and how you dress, from breathing, from eating, from hydrating. And so, they may just be something that can give you a start, just something you can look at and say, and the reason why I made so many cards is because we're all so different. And, one thing may just be all you need, or you may need 5 things, or you may need one thing today. And, it's to like really what we're talking about, to say, we all have similarities, but we're all individuals. And I'm not your guru, Dr. Nicola's not your guru. Like, you're your own guru. You live with you and you know what you need best. Sometimes you just have to make the space to really be able to hear and know and honor.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's beautifully said. Well, this is Dr. Sharon Stills. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And I'll make sure that we include a link so if anybody does want to get those red cards, they know how they can access them, because they're such a cool reminder. I have them in my desk and I'll just pull one randomly and be like, right. Sometimes it's like hydration. I'm like, oh, I'm really good at that. But just that day, I'm like, oh, even more aware of that. And there's other things that I don't have integrated completely yet. So they're just a really fun, easy reminder, and they're really pretty. So yeah.
And
yeah.
everyone always says it's kind of like, they're like magical. They're like health and wellness tarot cards, like you pull the one, it has the message that you needed at that moment.
That's exactly right. And sometimes we need those little external cues to help us stay connected in. So
yeah, I made the cards and I'm like, I pull a card, I'm like, okay, yeah, on it. So, we're all human.
Yeah, we all need the reminders, even those of us who teach it.
We're all just on a journey, no one's arrived. We're all just moving forward.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.